We are live in Wenatchee
At Suzilla
with Susie.
and Matt.
Okay.
That's Matt. I'm Susie. We're Wenatchee Insurance. Welcome aboard. It is Thursday. We were not here last week because we were taking a couple of vacation days.
Yes, it's one of those.
Thursday was a vacation day. Friday was a training day.
I don't know if I call it vacation day because we've been going 7 days straight for a couple weeks now.
Okay, so it was a weekend. We took Wednesday and Thursday off because we needed a break. And
Yeah,
we're allowed ourselves to do that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And
Which,
that's important to take care. It's important to do that, and we're not going to stop doing 7 days a week for a while. So we're going to have to do this at least once more before the end of the year.
Yeah, traditionally we'd take a break either in August or September.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll be able to do September.
No, there's too much coming for the annual enrollment periods this year. Medicare's got some structural changes with Medicare drug plans, and I am working my buns off to try and get people, booked for the annual enrollment period. And then we don't know what changes are coming with the individual plans. We don't know what the insurance companies are going to react to the Inflation Reduction Act change that reduces the out-of-pocket maximum for medications. It's going to be a very busy month.
It's surprisingly busy for an election cycle.
True. Usually we slow down a lot during an election year.
Yeah.
Not this year. Of course, it could just be us too.
It could be.
4 years ago, we were in a different place. Positioning. Well, not only business-wise, but physically, we were in a different office.
Yeah. We've moved on. And I'm going to bring up today's topic.
Yes.
Because I've been doing, those daily quotes.
Yes.
And this one came up last week, and I keep thinking about it, and it's pretty darn good.
Okay.
Courage is the most important of virtues because without it, no other virtue can be practiced consistently.
That is interesting.
That was Maya Angelou. She did that with a commencement speech in 2008.
She was a very wise woman.
And I've been, thinking about it and playing with it because, we espouse truth.
Yes.
That's one of our big virtues, and dignity and respect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that really takes courage. I can see the point that she was making.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to surround yourself with courageous individuals.
Yes. Because it takes courage to have convictions. That's where the phrase courage of your convictions comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary to be courageous. And being courageous is, it's scary.
Well, courage is part of courage is working through fear. It's not an absence of fear.
No, it's not an absence of fear. Is being afraid and still moving forward.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of awesome, actually. Some people can't do that. And that's kind of sad.
Well, courage, there's a kind of a spectrum.
Okay.
Of courage. You've got, something like just complete scaredy dogs.
Yeah.
And then you've got others that are, just foolhardy and brash.
Yes.
And then it's not about all subject matters. You can't have this amazing spectrum of against all things because there are just certain things that people are like, no, the spider's evil.
You just cannot be blanket courageous.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that we all have genuine fears.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of kind of facing them. Just being aware of them is courageous in its own right.
Well, you're doing that acknowledgement when you face them, or and you can work through them that way. There are people around there that are like, no, I have no idea, I'm afraid. And they don't have the courage to keep moving forward.
They get stuck.
Well, it's not only do they get stuck, they surround themselves with people that are pushing them back.
Oh. Okay.
Because it's comfortable.
Yeah, leaving your comfort zone is scary and takes courage.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing yourself to be completely stuck is not so courageous.
Yes, and like I said, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
You have that feeling of resistance.
To move out as resistance or to stay as resistance?
To stay as resistance.
Okay, the resistance to not.
You get pushed back, and you get put into a little place, and you can't. You're comfortable there, so you don't try new things.
It's sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a trap.
It's a sweet trap.
It's a sweet trap. Yep.
And it's one of those things where, you know, I've been looking at it and it's like milling around. And it's like, yeah, this is kind of a very, you know, poetic for certain things that happen when you change lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
Is people are like, no, you can't do that. You can't open a business.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go to school.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, you know, you can't go out and go camping with your buddies because no one wants to go camping. It's that, and with courage, you work through that. It's like, yeah, I can, and you're doing that. Yeah, I can, despite all the individuals saying that you can't.
If you have individuals around you saying you can't, you need new individuals around you.
But there's that comfort then.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Well, okay. If you've also got people around you saying you can't, you can say, "Oh, I'm going to," and oh, see, I was brave, but they told me I couldn't, so I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real sad. It's a fearful way of placing blame elsewhere for your lack of courageousness.
Well, yeah, because there's you get into that weird dynamic of people holding people back.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid to move forward themselves.
Yeah, I've run into that more than once.
And then you get the, you know, the people that are so fearful they can't tell you to your face, hey, it's time for you to move on.
Yeah. And then they do something stupid like sue you.
Yeah, and there are individuals out there like that are so afraid of change that they do something in order to attempt to maintain.
To try and keep their status quo, even though it's a significant change?
A good example of this is look at the MAGA movement.
Okay.
They're on the whole, hey, let's make America great. It's all driven by fear.
Yeah.
In order to do that, they go out and they basically abuse everyone to try to tear them down.
Yes.
It's driven on the lack of courage.
It's all about driving fear.
Yeah.
And they're going to take this, someone's going to take this away from you. Mm-hmm. You're going to lose everything. They're going to steal all your stuff. They're going to take your jobs.
We're paying all them benefits. We saw that one.
Yeah, all them benefits to all them people who ain't doing nothing. It's like, yeah, that's not the case.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that
way.
And
you like to look at it, it's like, that doesn't work that way. And there's a large portion that's significantly contributing to the tax base.
Yes.
More than companies.
Yeah, and they're not getting any benefit from it, but that's
and it's comfortable.
It is comfortable.
It's very comfortable to put on that red hat and go.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you put on the red hat and go and you start, spouting the fear, mm-hmm. you get people around you who are all feeling that you get that comfort group, and they start feeding off each other.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately it's a rather negative attitude towards, it's a very negative worldview.
Well, you also see that in business, where you start to edge out other like businesses.
Okay.
We've seen that with advertisers.
Okay.
Oh, hey, you know what? You'll be our only insurance company.
Yeah, we've seen that.
And we're like,
No, that's okay.
No,
You can have other insurance companies in there.
no, you could. We gladly embrace other insurance companies because we embrace the comparison.
Yeah, we're fine being we're strong enough with our agency and our situation that we are perfectly fine if somebody wants to go talk to somebody else.
Yeah, it's that's been our position for several years now.
Mhm.
Is that competition's good,
It is good. Competition is good for America. Good for people generally.
and having peers out there that are true peers
Yes.
is amazing because you can sit there and bounce ideas, and often it's like, oh, I might not necessarily have the best product. You should go over here. They're good people.
Yeah. You're not going to see. There's a lot of people who are afraid that if they do that, they're going to lose too much business because they're not confident in their own product or their own sales ability, or they're not confident enough to be courageous enough to send someone out.
Well, it's goofy because in our industry, it's the, hey, you're going to be an advisor.
Yeah.
And if you're not advising someone to, hey, that product over there is better,
Mm-hmm.
you're not really being an advisor. You're being a premium monkey.
Yeah, you're being a salesperson. Now, yesterday, for example, I advised somebody to not take an option that I had
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't the right fit for them.
Yeah.
That really impressed that particular client, and they will probably be back in a couple of years when they're ready for Medicare.
Yeah.
And the plan that they have is going to not be appropriate anymore. And I could have said, no, this is the best way to go. You should do this. It's not that much difference price wise, and it's a better option, and blah blah blah. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that was me. I guess you could say that was me being courageous, but I also know that was me being, honest.
Well, courage allows you to be honest.
Yeah, I wasn't being would you call it a premium monkey?
Yeah. And if you really look at it, you can. I come in and I'm like, well, yeah, that's someone working on jacking up the premium.
Yeah, I think I heard you do that something similar with a property quote yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, nope, this isn't the right move for you. Stick with what you got. Yeah. And
I'll get that from time to time.
Yeah, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's our job to make sure that you have what you need, not what we want you to have.
Yeah, and there is this weird kind of, I guess it's groupthink out there.
Okay.
That insurance people are just interested in the commission.
I don't know, maybe that's old. Maybe that's true of some people, though. Maybe that is true of some agents.
And it's quite possibly, yes. There are a few out there that are like that.
Not as a general rule, though.
However, we have seen there's a company out there that successfully has blocked any competitor's literature on their grounds.
Yes.
And they do that to protect their own sales force.
Yeah. And
I've seen other companies out there that require their outreach people to have a license so that they can recommend, and at the same time don't give them commissions.
Yeah, they're still salaried. So they have the permissions, but they don't get the benefits from the extra training.
Correct. So that's
very greedy on the corporate level.
Yes, and because no one is talking about that, it's like no one knows that it exists, and it does a couple different things. Mm-hmm. One of those things is that people assume that outreach people are good-hearted and they get paid based on salary, which is true.
Yes, they are salary based.
They're salary based.
Sometimes hourly, but yeah, they get money.
However, a couple of years ago, we discovered that if they're on the in-person assister side of things, there was money based on the amount of policies that they were controlled.
Yes.
And so the organization would get that money and then disperse it, use it to help pay the salaries of their outreach people.
They weren't necessarily getting this out. The people who were making those connections and writing the policies were not getting bonuses. They were just getting their salaries.
Yeah.
So there wasn't there's no extra perks for doing your job well.
Yeah. And it was really interesting because like the Medicaid component, yes, those had that component of where they got paid, those lead organizations. And the people who were doing the work weren't necessarily getting compensated at a high level if they performed high.
No.
Which is the whole meaning behind the agency model. Was going out, having trained professionals be able to advocate for different products.
Yes. Now, what about your captured agencies? The ones who just have an agent who is contracted with one of the larger companies, and that's all they represent.
It depends on what they do. A lot of those will have contracts saying, "Hey, this is you can't say, hey, that product over there is better."
Yeah, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to just sell what you've got.
Yeah, and that's very common in the captive arenas, and we've seen companies do that as well. I competed against a couple of those the first year.
Yeah,
head to head and beat them out.
Right.
Because I was literally boots on the ground. They were running call centers.
Yep.
I don't have too much. I guess I don't have too much for having call centers like that.
Too much what?
Positive.
Yeah, call centers can be. When you're talking call centers, it always brings to mind, the whole boiler room feel, and it's the churn and burn, the slapping phones to use some stereotypical phrasing.
Well, yeah, because the Can Spammed Act was one of those things that was supposed to remove that element, and unfortunately, we've seen just a kind of a rise the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, and then the more unscrupulous call centers, boiler rooms, are working around that kind of thing by using spoofed phone numbers.
Yeah.
You can do the do not call list, you can do all that kind of stuff you're supposed to do, but they're not going to stop. And mostly those are scammers.
And at the same time, if you use one of those, you're kind of doing the, hey, you know what? I'm comfortable on the phone, or I'm comfortable on the computer. I'm not comfortable in person.
But yes.
So you're starting to run into that fear driving you away from that personal interaction.
Now, interestingly enough, I have a greater fear of phone calls than I do of personal interaction. So, and then if you look at a lot of the newer matters, the way with the rise of texting, a lot of people just don't take phone calls anymore. It's all about the text. Is that fear? Is that lack of bravery? Is that just?
It can be. It depends on the message being taken. I will, if it's big news, either good or bad, I do my best to do it in person. If you're like firing someone, it's in person.
It should be. I know somebody that broke up with someone over text. I thought that was I thought that was awful that they did that.
Yeah. The next kind of layer is you do a personal call. That way it's person to person. It's clear on the decision being made. There's no judgments, and you've got that conviction, that courage.
Yeah.
And then when you start to get out into the, here's your letter of termination, along with your 5 million other taxi drivers, yeah, you've got it's like you're kind of on the lousy side.
Yeah.
If you're let's do a Zoom call and spend 30 seconds of terminating 1,000. No.
At least if you're going to fire somebody by Zoom, you should at least do either a small group or one-on-one.
Yeah, doing the large terminations like we were seeing that is not courageous at all.
No, that is
And
not.
It's you have to look at it. That's like, okay, do you want to do business that way? Do you want to put stock in that company?
Okay, if you're firing a huge number of people, the company itself is probably on the ropes, and you probably don't want to be investing in that company.
Not necessarily. There are different decisions. I know that there was a company out there in our industry that turned around and let go like half their underwriters. And that's just massive. And there's been a couple companies that will have up to a 15-day wait time to bind.
Because of the underwriting reductions.
Because of the underwriting reductions, because of the tougher market. And so they leave it on the agents to handle the customers without giving them any backup. And that's a lack of conviction, and that kind of burns.
It burns everybody.
It burns. No. What it does is it burns the agents from using that product.
Yeah. And ultimately it will burn the company itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've run into this so many times. It's been very typical in retail. Oh, hey, payroll's down. We're gonna cut hours, so there'll be fewer people here to do this job. Well, that means the customers aren't going to be served as well, which means they're not going to come back, which means there's going to be fewer sales, which means there's going to be fewer payroll. And for some reason, it doesn't seem to click that is it's a null set. It's a negative. It doesn't do what they want it to do. I mean, it doesn't increase profit. It doesn't increase traffic. It does not. It's a negative reinforcement. It's not a positive reinforcement.
It's one of those goofy sets that it looks good on paper, but in reality is just
it has no long term. It has no legs. It will not last.
Yeah.
And what you're right. Okay. What drives a lot of that in what I've seen is catering to shareholders, because all they want is the numbers at the end of the quarter. And if the numbers at the end of the quarter aren't good enough and they're not going to get their dividends, they're not going to be happy. They're not catering for the long-term growth and survival of the business. They're just taking care of what's happening in that 3-month period.
Yeah. And
that is seriously, in my opinion, a very bad way to run a business.
It's a horrible way to run a business because you're always running short term.
And that's what's happening.
Well, it's because a lot of those stakeholders are one foot in the grave.
Well, not just that, but you're also dealing with investment groups. You're not dealing with individuals anymore. You're dealing with the people who are going to squeeze a company dry of everything they can get and then sell off their chunk of it.
Oh, you're from the hedge funds.
Among other things, yes.
Yeah. Well,
that's a known model.
Well, yes, that's been a known model since the 80s and the me generation.
Exactly. And that hasn't stopped. It's gotten worse, I think.
Well, yeah, because those 80s kids saw that behavior, saw where they could get rich quick by not being courageous and a lack of morals. Mm-hmm. And they've come into their own when those hedge funds, and they've reinvigorated that process because of their lack of morality and their lack of courage.
That's our generation,
Actually, it's younger than us.
But we were in our 20s in the 80s.
Yes, but it's largely it's the next generation.
It's the millennials?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, there you are then.
Because look at this. What is it? Skrillex? The pharmacy bra.
Not Skrillex. I can't think of his name, but it's SK something. I can't think. But
Mhm.
yeah, Pharmacy Bro. Yeah, and then
Yeah, Pharmacy Bro, I don't even think he made 30.
I don't know. Either way, you could be right. But they learned from the greed is good Wall Street 80s model, and they ran with it.
Yeah.
And they ran with it with modern technology and are just making money hand over fist in certain points. Scarelli.
Scarelli.
Knew it'd come to me.
Yeah.
Skrillex.
And that is, again, fueled by that lack of courage.
Yeah.
And
See, but he would argue that him going out there and doing this is courageous. Like, no one's ever done this before. I'm super brave to be out there doing something new and making money. He would argue that.
it doesn't take courage to do horrible things. It takes courage to do good things.
See, that's actually got potential for argument. Okay, let's look at the model of the supervillain.
Mhm.
Isn't a supervillain kind of courageous to have to go out there and fight up against the good in the world to
No.
get what they want? Why isn't it courageous? Why is it cowardly?
Straight up, you're impacting people who do not have any means to defend themselves or any effect on you.
Okay,
That's
what
pretty
about
much the definition of supervillain.
What about when your supervillain goes up against somebody who can defend themselves? We know that the defenders, the people who are coming against the supervillain, are being courageous because they're trying to protect themselves and people around them.
Yeah.
Your supervillain has to protect themselves and the people around him. One assumes that they've got people that they care about themselves.
What are you talking about? They throw their minions under the bus regularly.
And maybe their cat. Okay, we'll give them their cat.
You know, you could famously look at someone who had 47 different appointees, and like 40 of them said, "No, don't do that guy."
Yeah, 75% of them said, "Never again."
Yeah, that's a good sign that there's a lack of courage there.
Okay, if we go for the fictional supervillain, and they're going up against the good guys, doesn't it take some courage to go up against the good guy and fight the fight?
That's that physical thing. However, if you're talking true supervillain, they don't care about their minions. They'll let them die.
Yeah, well, yeah, the supervillain does send the minions out to die. Yeah. That's their job, and then they run away and hide in their volcano.
Yeah, live to fight another day. That way you have part 2.
And there you go.
So, yeah.
Them and their cat.
You don't have, it takes courage to sit there and say, hey, little person over here, I will defend you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take courage to say, hey, little person over there, I blame you for all my problems.
Mm-hmm. Or, hey, little person over there, go fight that other little person over there. I'm going to go over here and hide in my volcano.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is definitely a lack of courage. It's the, then you get into that whole lack of courage of being able to express positive emotions.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So you have to think about yourself. You have to think, am I being brave? Am I being courageous? Mm-hmm. If I'm not, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want to break out of your little cotton covered cage? Do you want to stay in your little hole, your little cotton covered volcano your entire life?
Sometimes there are paper cages, and sometimes there are iron cages.
Mm-hmm. And it's
and iron cages take a whole lot more effort to get out.
Absolutely. And you know what? There are people who are courageous that will help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've had more than one walk in our door and I need help. Okay, let's figure this out.
See what we can help you with. Yeah. And honestly, them walking in the door saying, I need help was courageous.
Yeah.
Asking for help is a very brave thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
So yes.
Be brave.
Be brave. If you're in a situation you're wondering why don't you move forward, or if you're stuck, or how do you get help, take a moment, look at yourself, look at the people around you. Do you have people cheering you forward or holding you back?
Mm-hmm.
are you stuck because it's personal? Are you stuck because of how you've been trained?
Mm-hmm. Bravery also doesn't have to be a big step.
No, it could be a little step. It could be simply getting up and having a shower that day.
That's absolutely correct.
So, hey, everyone out there, be courageous. Enjoy the Olympics. There's some awesome events of courage going on out there.
It's some amazing, there's some amazing events going on there. Some pretty cool folks doing pretty cool things. All right. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, bye.